Reading in bed.
Right, Amanda, what are we doing today?
We're doing Reading in Bed, episode 55.
Yeah, I know, it's horrifying, isn't it? So I said, now, obviously, Amanda, who am I?
Andy N.
Yeah, and what is Reading in Bed?
It's a book review podcast.
Yeah, now, obviously, 55, you're wondering, what's 55? That's 55 episodes we've done. And how often do we normally do it?
Monthly.
Yeah, man, there is. If you go back through our archive, you will discover, obviously, that lovely little bits and pieces we've done over time, like Reading in Bed Extract, which is Amanda's solo project. And there has been a number of extra episodes we've done over the years as well, hasn't there? So bits and pieces.
Yeah, we've done some story time, and I used to do Reading in Bed Extracts, and we've done like one-off specials on different things as well.
Yeah, now, obviously, Reading in Bed Extract, Reading in Bed, they said Reading in Bed Extract, and Reading in Bed is our book review podcast. How many books are we doing this year? No, this year. This month.
100.
Oh, God, if we did it as a yearly episode, we'd be going about midnight, won't we?
Oh, no, that's too much.
Yeah, we'll be even for you. So, okay, how many books are we reviewing this month?
We're doing 3 between us, and one's a shared book. So
yeah,
it's been makes it a bit easier.
One reason or another, we're not going to go into it. We both have been. I've read an extra book this month, but we're going to do that next month. And you just basically entitled a few bits and pieces this month, Amanda, haven't you as well? So
yeah.
So it's been hopefully quality, not quantity, this month. So as I said, we've got one joint book and one solo book each. So obviously, before we come to that, we do have news, don't we?
Yeah.
Ladies first.
Okay, in about a month or so, I'm going to be launching my new miniseries called My Big Fat Zombie Life.
Yeah, now this, people are wondering, this is going to be on the Reading in Bed timeline. And if you're really clever, you would have seen the trailer episode that we did just before this, Amanda, didn't we? So, on My Big Fat Zombie Life. In case you didn't, don't tell people, Amanda, what it's My Big Fat Zombie Life is about briefly.
So it's a spoof series about an influencer that gets turned into a zombie and then carries on being an influencer, telling people how to deal with different aspects of their life as a zombie.
Yeah, and this is obviously like it, how she's fallen, and while she's fallen to pieces, etc. Basically, and the life goes to pieces. Yeah, and there's certainly that way now. Obviously, talking generally obviously about this, Amanda, I don't want to repeat myself too much on this because we want people to listen to the trailer and then the podcast series itself. Where did this idea come from, Richard?
I came up with the idea one morning when I was up about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I remember getting back into bed and saying something to you, and you just like rolled off and go, "Go back to sleep, Amanda."
It usually happens at us if you wake me up at 3:30 in the morning, which is a regular occurrence.
Something influences, and you're just there snoring, going, "Go to sleep."
Yeah, I have that habit where, if people are wondering, obviously your sleep pattern's a bit unusual sometimes, isn't it? To put it bluntly, and I do remember that when you woke me up in the middle of the night and I was talking about it in the morning, I'm going back to sleep. So, and then it was by coincidence, wasn't it? We went over to a writing workshop in Stratford Library, actually, which is a very good workshop, all that. And tell people then, Amanda, you carry on the story, which is your project.
No, I just used one of the prompts that they gave me there to get started on it because I was just sort of chomping to get started at it. A bit like chomping on brains, really.
Brains, yeah, I know, right. Yeah, so obviously, like I said, it's obviously then people wondering, well, obviously, you are going to try this out on, well, as we stand anyway, as a video, aren't you? So tell us about what made you want to do that then.
Well, I think quite a lot of the stuff actually relies on video. So I've done like the first one in like spoken word nights, and I can pull it off without like all the props and stuff. But I think the props really do help it a lot.
Yeah, definitely that one. So I know the first one's hysterical, and I've loved the other few that you've done since. I'm not going to say how many you've recorded, okay? But I know obviously, tell people.
I know a few people listening to this probably seen the first one because I did share it, but it's on a private link, so I've not like officially released it yet.
Yeah, now also tell people, obviously, you can do it in seasons, aren't you, rather than an ongoing
Yeah.
series.
It's got to be like 10 episodes each season.
Yeah, and then obviously you're telling them from the preview podcast, you're going to do what? Take a month, maybe 2 break, aren't you? And then get the second season ready,
Yeah,
aren't you?
it gives me time to stack up a few more, and I'm not pressured to like think, oh, no, I've got to come up with a new episode this week. Because some weeks I don't have much work on, and other weeks it's like everybody's giving me work.
Yeah, I said, guys and girls, but keep your eyes on it. What we're going to do is we've got the trailer podcast coming up before this, and that will be released before this episode comes up. When we know what's going on, I'm then going to be basically an extract of Amanda and the audio, and I'll release it specially separate, and then it'll tell you basically definitely where it's going to be, okay? Because we'll see how we go with the video. Because I'm going to be very interested to see how this goes, okay? So because what we're doing is we're doing it as a video on Anchor, and we've not tried the video package on Anchor yet, Amanda, have we? So
no. So we're hoping that'll work. So everywhere it goes, it'll be on video. Otherwise, we're just going to have to go back and just do it on YouTube and Instagram. Because it does rely a lot on people being able to see it.
Watch your space, that's all we can say, isn't it, really, Amanda Love? So, right, okay. Have you got any more news?
No, I know you've got some news. Though.
Yes, I have, yeah. Long-standing people, obviously, my right will know, is with my friend Nick Ambrister, we've been working on a series of non-fiction, anti-war poetry books for about a few years now called Europa. And we've done 5 of them, and the 5th book came out earlier on this year talking about the Afghanistan war. We weren't planning to do a 6th book so quick, but obviously what's been going on in the Ukraine is a case to force the hand a bit there. So the 6th book is pretty well complete now on my side. I've got to wait to confirm 2 or 3 quick things with Nick, and that'll be out in the next couple of weeks, certainly before the next episode of this. And then after that, Amanda, I've told you what I'm doing after that as well, haven't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got I've always wanted to do like a selective poems book. So I'm going to be sorting them 2 out next. I've got volumes 1 and 2, one of which will cover my 6 published books to date. And volume 2 will cover me a split book. So we're like with Amanda and Nick. So then it basically just a case of tying things up really with some extra pieces. And then towards the end of the year, I'm aiming to bring out my diabetic poetry book. So it's busy times, love, isn't it?
Yeah.
So watch your space. Okay. Apart from that, should we move on, Amanda?
Yeah.
Right. We've already agreed today. We're going to do our joint book first today. And find it. Okay, the joint book, Amanda. Do you want to tell people what it's called?
It's called Run, Rose, Run, and it's by James Patterson and Dolly Parton.
Yes, that's correct. Okay, James Patterson, Dolly Parton. Do you want me to read the blurb out, Amanda?
You can do.
Okay. From America's most beloved superstar and its greatest storyteller, a thriller about a young singer-songwriter on the rise and on the run, and determined to do whatever it takes to survive. Every song tells a story. She's all star on the rise, singing at the half-life behind her. She's also on the run. Find her future, lose her past. Nashville is where it comes to claim her destiny. It's also the darkness she fled might find her and destroy her. Run, Rose, Run is a novel glittering with danger and desire. A story that only America's most #1 beloved entertainer and his #1 best-selling author could have created. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. What should we do first, Amanda?
Shall we talk about how we discovered this? I think it was you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was me. I thought it came up on an ad on Amazon. I remember messaging you, and you thought at the time, no, sorry, you sat next to me actually. You thought I was joking, didn't you? I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
You turned around and said, and you used a beep word, which I'm not going to repeat here. You said beep, beep, beep. And then you didn't believe me. I had to show you, and then you burst out laughing. Then I remember you telling me.
Yeah.
That's why. But it's interesting, really, because I read up on this one actually. Before we go into the strengths, I was going to say about this. When they did the live book launch event, which I believe was online, it was revealed that James Patterson actually had the initial idea, and he approached Dolly Parton, who they've known each other for donkey's years. She provided the Nashville details, and then wrote the album and music to go along with the album. And also, apparently, it's worth stating, we've read the book version of this. Apparently, the audio book version has got 9 different people narrating it.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, so, and including, I could probably guess which character Dolly Parton's probably narrated, can't you?
I would guess it'd be the older country singer that's sort of semi-retired.
Yeah. So I started thinking, I thought straight away, that's a little bit like her, that one straight away. So, right, Amanda, obviously to move on then, we better go into strengths and weaknesses, haven't we, before we start? So should we start with the strengths?
Yeah.
Okay then, so where do you want to start?
I'd watched Nashville, as you know, was one of my few guilty pleasures. And the characters, they just felt like they'd fit into that, which is probably the only experience I've got of like Nashville and, like singers and behind the scenes and stuff. So whether that's based on fact, I don't know, but it felt very real.
Yeah.
And someone once described Nashville as well as being like a Dolly Parton eating too much cheese before going to bed and having a strange dream. And this just sort of sounded exactly like that.
Yeah, it is a bit, isn't it? Yeah, I get what you mean with that straight away. So I kept thinking, and to be honest with you, this just isn't a criticism. It did feel a bit like Dynasty, or no, more Dallas to me than Dynasty, really, in a way. It's very soapy in places, wasn't it? In places.
Yeah, a little bit, but you knew that it wasn't going to be like, oh yeah, she becomes a big star and, a happy ever after. You knew there was something sinister that was going to happen, that was going to risk everything. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now, it's obviously, we better tell people, obviously, the book first. The book itself starts with a flash forward, doesn't it? Where we meet the main character, Annie Lee, who's about to end things, shall we say, and then spend the next 6 months leading up to that moment when she comes into Nashville and meets the handsome and charming Ethan Blake and the retired, is it Ruth-Anna, isn't it? So
Ruth-Anna, yeah.
Yeah, tell us about how you felt about the character development of these 3 main people in the book.
Yeah, I like the 3 main characters, but especially like the younger girl and the older country singer. I think there's 2 strong female characters who are very set in their ways, and like the younger woman's very stubborn and she's not prepared to be honest and accept help, and she's doing things her own way, which might not be the right way to do things.
Yeah, I think that's the folly of youth sometimes, as they say there, isn't it? Now, obviously, I've got to ask you this, and I know you're the expert on this, on women writing men badly, or men writing women badly, I should say. Tell us, first of all, then, how did you think were the main 2 female characters believable?
Yeah, I thought that was written really well. I've not really read a lot of James Patterson books, so I don't know what he's like with writing women, but obviously Dolly Parton had a big part in it, so she would have guided him there anyway.
Yeah, it's obviously in something like James Patterson's case, obviously. If you read up on him straight away, we remember, don't you, when you were living in Cheetham, your previous flat, you came to live here, was we both remember, he bought that book with Bill Clinton, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose he does seem to like doing collaborations. I wanted to ask you that because apparently the talk with Bill Clinton was Bill Clinton didn't have a lot to do with that book. He was an advisor. This felt like it was more hands-on to me by Dolly Parton. I felt she had quite a big hand in this book.
Yeah. So I think James Patterson wrote the Sue books that the TV series on Netflix was based on, but I never read the books. I just watched the series. So I think that's probably as close as I'd gotten to any of his work before.
No, I get you, agree with you. Tell us about how did you feel about the pacing of the book then? Did you think it was quite well paced, did you?
Yeah, I think so. You could see like it was building up to something and you was thinking, any minute now something's going to happen.
Yeah, I found the book a bit, if I'm honest, a bit of a slow burner. I think it took quite a while to get going before we got to the big reveal, possibly too long. But I didn't mind too much because I thought the book, it was really charming. And I loved the 3 main characters.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at it as a sort of thriller type crime book, then you might not be that satisfied with it. But I was just looking at it like a little spin-off to the TV series Nashville. And I was thinking all these characters would fit in if they turned up in Nashville in the TV series.
Yeah, no, I agree. I liked the fact where you had all three of the main characters in it, and there was other people in the background as well. That the three of them all were damaged and probably damaged for whatever reason, weren't they? Should we go into spoilers on this?
Yeah.
Obviously, you had Ruth Anna, basically, she had lost her daughter. And this then, obviously, when the new girl comes in, that was like almost like a surrogate daughter, I mean, to, wasn't it? Then Ethan Blake had, what was it? And his wife been murdered or something, hadn't he?
Think she'd committed suicide. I can't remember now.
Yeah, there was something. I think that was suicide, and he nearly went to prison over it. So it's like the three of them were quite damaged in different ways, weren't they? So that's why it's like I like the fact where they seem to being together heal themselves, didn't it? So
yeah,
that's why. And okay, I've got to ask: is there anything else we need to touch on these strengths before we move into weaknesses?
Yeah, the thing that I did like it, I don't think it relied on sex like some books do.
Oh God, yeah, I love that bit where there was hints, and we're going to go back, carry on the spoilers, like I said. There was lots of hints going around, wasn't there, between Annie Lee and Ethan, but there's no bedroom scenes in it, and I really liked that.
No, it was really subtle, and it's like you don't need it to be like in your face all the time. And it's like if you've looked around at some of the books, it's like if this was like one of the bonkbusters, you'd have like that cowboy character on the front and he'd be wearing a hat and like not very much else, and it'd just be like, yeah, okay, I'm not really bothered about that book.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly the same on that. So that's what I found with it as well. And I felt subtlety in the book was possibly a little bit old fashioned in some ways, but I liked it.
Yeah, I think you can do that. You can hint towards stuff, and it doesn't have to be graphic and go, and yeah, this happened and blah blah blah, and going into details.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely on that one, love. And it was nice. It really was nice to actually get something like that come in the book, actually, definitely so. But that's so. Now, is there anything else you want to talk about before we move on?
No, I've got a slight weak point to mention in a minute. So.
Yes, I have as well, Tanisha, as well. So, okay. How do you want to go first then?
Okay, I just think when Annie Lee met the older country singer Ruth Anna, she just seemed to get a break really quickly. But on the other hand, it's like it wasn't really a story about like rising to stardom. It was sort of like a crime thriller, wasn't it? So I think if they'd done it more realistically, it would have taken up like nearly all the book. If they'd shown how long it really does take to make it in Nashville.
Yeah,
so I can see why they did it.
I can as well. I was a bit, if I'm honest with you, I have to be honest, mine covers the same direction, really, where it's like, I felt it seemed a bit rushed at the end. Well, obviously, when Ethan came to the rescue, should we say, about what had gone down and the secrets of her past, that bit seemed a bit crammed in at the end. But I think to give her that longer build up, as you said, and also build that in, it would have made it probably an 800-page book, wouldn't it, really? So,
yeah.
And it was what about 300 is what, wasn't it? 350 was it? I can't remember now.
Yeah, I think that was long enough. Yeah.
It was long enough for what it was, because sometimes, I'd rather read a book like that. It's told the story, even though we've got two things we both could have added to it. I wouldn't have wanted to see an 800-page book on that. It'd be way too much.
No, and it wouldn't have been that interesting a story anyway. If he'd put all the details in like that.
Yeah. It might have been the case where when they were outlining it originally, because you always say with books, don't you? You're outlining people's lives. You put everything into the outlines, and you know this yourself, don't you? If you're a novelist yourself, like you can't put everything. Doesn't make the book, does it?
No.
That's what I mean by that. So, how did you feel about the lyrics going in at the end, Amanda?
Yeah, I think by the time I got to the end, I didn't really read the lyrics.
No, the album's really good. I've played it back actually. It's a really good album.
Yeah, I'd like to listen to it.
Yeah, I'll take it up for you because I've heard it. I'll play it. And it was really, really good. But I wasn't sure whether you need the lyrics at the end of it, I'm sure. But it's for the sake of completeness, I suppose, isn't it? So,
yeah.
Right. Is there anything else we need to cover on the book today, Amanda?
No.
Right, better mark it and pardon me, hiccups there. Ladies first.
Okay, I'm giving it 9 out of 10.
What do you think I'm giving it?
About 8 or 9.
It's a 9. It's one of my favourite books of the year, actually. I've got to say that so far. I think when we get to our end of year poll, this is going to be one of the books of the year for me.
Yeah.
How do you feel at the moment? Would you say I could be right?
Possibly. It depends what else we read for the rest of the year, doesn't it?
But yeah, but okay, well, Half Year Stage is one of my favourite books of the year. And it's certainly, I've got to be frank, it's one of my most unexpected books of the year for enjoyment.
It's not the two people that you'd expect to work together, is it?
No, it wasn't, and it was a lot better than I thought. I have to be frank, it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be as well.
Yeah.
Really was a good book. So anyway, folks, and we better wrap up here. Part 1, Amanda, hadn't we?
Yeah.
What do you do now then?
We go goodbye. See you in part 2.
Yeah. We're not even decided who part 2 is going to be yet, so we're going to argue with this.
We're going to fight it out off screen, aren't we? Off air.
Right. We shall see you in a minute, okay? Say bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Reading and bed.
Hi guys. Part 2. Reading in bed. What episode is it, Amanda? 55. Yeah, God, I honestly lose count frequently. As you might have guessed, this is going to be Amanda's solo book of the month. Right, Amanda, do you want to tell us what the name of the book is and who wrote it?
It's called The Premonitions Bureau by Sam Neill.
Now, you listened to this on Audible, didn't you? I seem to recall.
Yeah.
Right, well, do you want to tell us the blurb then?
Okay. New Yorker staff writer based in London, Sam Knight's The Premonition Bureau, expanding on a magazine piece from March about an experiment in 1967 in which an interest in the occult set up an organisation to collect people's dreams and forebodings, to compare them to actual events, serve as an early warning system, to William Haywood at Penguin Press for publication in spring 2022.
Right, okay, now, obviously, I remember you telling me this one. This is actually a non-fiction book, isn't it?
Yeah.
What made you want to actually listen to this one, Audible, first of all? Then?
Well, we came across the hard copy of the book in Waterstones in Bradford when we were there for the day.
Oh, recently, yeah, we did that. We went up there for a reason. What was it? We went to spend your family very recently.
On my mum's birthday, yeah.
Your mum's birthday, right. I don't remember the book. I remember the very nice Waterstones in Bradford. It's really nice there, so. Okay, that been the case then. So was that the one when you got home and discovered it actually on Audible then, basically, did you?
Yeah.
Right. Well, tell us about the book then. You've done the bio, you've done the blurb.
Yeah.
Give us a strength and words back from today.
It's an interesting story. It's supposed to be based on a true story about an experiment to see if disasters could be predicted and stopped.
Right.
I mean, one of the things, it was a bit long-winded at times, so I'd be listening to it, I'd be thinking, how is this about the Premonitions Bureau? And then it'd go back to the subject then. But it seemed to get a bit off track quite a lot of the time.
Was it one that was wandering on various time zones, or was it a bit then?
Yeah, it was focusing mainly on Aberfan in Wales, where there was a coal mining landslide. That's what started it off and made this psychologist think, what if people could predict like disasters and would that save lives? Because there were a few different stories that came out that wasn't so much that people like had a premonition and said, oh, there's going to be this coal mining landslide next week. But there was a boy that was reluctant to go to school and they couldn't explain why, and his mother forced him to.
Oh, yeah.
And he ended up dying in this landslide.
Oh, that's
and then
cheerful.
There was a girl who told the mother the week before that she wasn't afraid to die just out of the blue for no apparent reason. It's like on some subconscious level, even if it's not like, you get this premonition like, oh, there's going to be this disaster. It's more of a, oh, I'm not afraid to die. And it's like, why did you say that? And it's like, I don't know, it just came into my head.
Yeah, so obviously it would have been an Audible book there. So was it quite a lengthy one for you to go through this, was it?
It wasn't too long, I don't think. I think it was about 6 hours long. And I've come across a lot longer books than that.
Well, the record was the Stephen King to stand for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was 48 hours.
40 hours. Yeah, basically, that means that's a reasonably slender book because the Uncut Stan was 1,400 pages. So this is probably only about 200 and pages. It's quite a slender little book then, really, isn't it? So.
Yeah, the little hard copy book wasn't too big when I saw it in Waterstones.
Good. Okay, tell us about the pacing of the book then. Was it quite an easy book to read then, was it?
It did lose me a bit when he started getting off topic some of the time. But then when he came back to it, I could kind of see, like what it was leading up to. But I just think he needed to sort of shorten it down and compact it a little bit. But then it probably would have been about 100 pages.
Yeah, I don't get you. I mean, sometimes it's getting the balance right in books sometimes, isn't it? So, no, I get you completely. Oh, God. Well, yeah, I understand completely. Now, is there anything else we need to touch on with the positives of this book?
Yeah, obviously the Premonition Bureau isn't a thing anymore. They shut it down. And they said it was a failure because they only had a 3% success rate. But I think 3% success rate is probably more of a success than anything.
Yeah.
Because if you think about like people that say that they can like predict the future, it's like most of the time, probably about 90%, 97% of them will be fakes or just imagining it or maybe have some sort of mental problem. And 3% will actually be genuine. So it shows that there is some genuine people out there that can predict the future. So I would say it's a success rather than a failure.
Yeah, I would say the same with that as well, definitely. So interesting. So definitely, I agree with you. So that one. So yeah, okay then. So is there anything else we need to touch on positive sides before we move on to the negatives?
No, I think that's it really.
Now, I know you've got some criticism in this book, haven't you? So tell us then.
Yeah, it's mainly what I've already mentioned, where he just goes off track a lot and he's just a bit long-winded.
Yeah, I think when it's long-winded like that, it's a short book. Sometimes there's obviously you probably struggled your attention in places. I would suspect it probably didn't you a little bit. So
yeah, he could have done in a lot less, sort of filled up a lot less space.
Yeah, sounds like it straight away with that love. So, but I suppose it is what it is, isn't it? Sometimes some books, isn't it? So definitely that. So okay then. And what else? Well, I'm losing my bloody words here today. Sorry about this. Okay then. Tell us about then, to conclude, what marks you're going to give us out of 10.
Yes, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 because I think it's a really interesting thing that happened, and I didn't know about this until I saw the book in Waterstones. And I think it sort of serves as proof that there is such thing as being able to predict the future.
Yeah, sounds like it straight away with that. So, interesting. So, definitely that. So, yeah, it's a worthy book. Is that a good word for it?
Yeah.
Good. Sounds good to me then. Okay. Well, that's the end of part 2 then. When we come back, it'll be part 3. And do you want any hints on book 3, Amanda?
Yeah, I want a hint.
No, mine's a very nice, cheerful comedy.
That's unusual for you.
Not. That's your clue. Okay, so, right, guys and girls, just see what minutes. Say bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Reading in bed.
Hi, guys.
Welcome back to Reading in Bed, episode 55.
I am Andy.
And I'm Amanda Nicholson.
My book now, because I completely went off cue then. Usually what we do is when the other person's reviewing the book, and I usually start the other one speaking, and I got forgotten. So just to confuse you, Amanda, aren't I? So
yeah.
Right, what do you want to know me first, Amanda?
The title and the author.
The author is a lady called Amy Liptrot. The book is called The Outrun.
Okay, yeah. Do you have a blurb?
I do indeed, yes. It's a little bit long, this, but it's a good blurb. So, when Amy Liptrot returns to the Orkney after more than a decade away, she is drawn back to the Outrun on the sheep farm where she grew up. Approaching the land that was once home, memories of her childhood merge with recent events that set her on this journey. Amy was shaped by the cycle of the seasons, birth and death on the farm, as her father's mental illness, which was much part of her childhood as the wild, carefree existence on Orkney. But as she grew up, she longed to leave this remote life. She moved to London and found herself in a heterostotic cycle. Unable to control her drinking, alcohol gradually took over. Now 30, she finds herself washed up back home in Orkney, standing unstable on the cliff edge, trying to come to terms with what happened to her in London. Spending early mornings swimming in the bracingly cold sea, the days tracking Auckland's wildlife, puffins nested on seal stacks, Arctic Thames swooping close enough to feel their wings, and nights searching for the sky for the merry dancers, Amy slowly makes the journey towards recovery from addiction. The Outrun is a beautiful, inspiring book about living on the edge, about the pull between island and city, and about the ability of the sea, the land, the wind and the moon to restore life and renew hope.
Okay, so how did you discover this book?
This was somebody I know on Facebook. You've not met him, called Steve Timms, who did a review of this book, actually, in his feed on Facebook. I hadn't heard of this book, and it sounded interesting. I basically when I got hold of a copy of this book.
Okay, were there any good points you want to start off with?
Yeah. There's quite a bit to talk about this one. Like it's, I've not been up to the Orkneys. Which do you know where the Orkneys is, Amanda?
Scotland, I think.
Yeah, it's right above the main Scotland Highland. It's one of the islands up there. So I knew about London, and it's what probably drew me into it, and the path that Amy fell into at the start of the book. And that part of the book is incredibly harrowing, with the damage she did to herself, and she ruined a relationship she went into, and realised only in London when she had to go to get dried out, the similarities to her father, who tread down a similar path in the Orkneys. It was not easy reading that part of the book at all. It wasn't. And then, like, you're looking at when she came back to Orkney to recover, it took me into a way of life I certainly had an experience in great depth. I found it very enjoyable still.
Yeah.
Like it's
so what were the character building like?
It was all her basically. So it's like it's a memoir sort of book. So basically, the actual book itself, obviously, it's not told in A and B. It's jumping on A to C, back to A, then over to D. So it's like a bit of memoir. It's jumping up in time zones a lot, talking about the history of a family. And it's frank because it goes on about like how the father's drinking ruined his marriage to her mum. And then like her mum went massive into religion because of that. And it you know what I mean? It can bustle enemies, can stay together. And when she went to live in London and she hit the same problems like Dad with her drinking, it ruined her marriage, and not the same marriage, a guy she got with for quite a long time. And then the second part of the book itself, it covers the bulk of the story really. It's fairly simple as the author returns to the audience and attempts to live with the mistakes she made in the early part of her life.
Okay. So there's only more good points before you move on to
yeah. I've got to ask you, Amanda, you've lived in big cities like I have. And it's how do you think it's an fair accurate picture that when you're living in big cities like that, you can very, very easily fall into a trap, can't you? Turn into alcohol all the time.
I don't think I've ever turned to alcohol.
No, but you wouldn't.
Not like that, anyway.
No, but we both know people have, haven't we?
Yeah. I suppose it's just like you can just get lost, like because people just ignore you because there's so many people and there's just lots of things going on.
Yeah, I think that's what seemed to happen with her really, because she had quite a creative job, and I think the hours kicked in the job, and it, you know what I mean, it just ruined her life basically. And then when she went to live back in the Orkneys, it's like you're by yourself a lot more, aren't you? And I think it's a healing process sometimes. You're going from one extreme to the other, and I think that's what this book's about, really, where it's a lot of it's coming to terms with the mistakes you've made, and that's something I can live with, so I can relate to, and I'm sure you can as well, can't you?
Yeah.
That's why. So it's a healing. The book's about healing, really, and I think it's only a very slender book. Again, it's a very short book. It's only about 250 pages. It wasn't a long book. I think
How long did it take you to get through it?
Week and a half. It wasn't a particularly long book, so I think it's one of the books in a lot less skilled hands. I think the book could have been, you know, a bit blunt, but it was beautifully told with a lot of the symbolism between in the Orkneys, how she's realising what she's done with her life. So,
okay. Was there anything you didn't like about the book?
Yeah, there was actually two small things. I've read some criticism of the book in places saying it is little more than a tourist guide to the Orkney Islands, which, yeah. But I certainly probably did enjoy the parts of London more when it says in the Orkney Islands, the Orkney Islands, the further the book went on. And I think it probably was a bit repetitive in places as well. So, but again, like you said, your book, your solo book you did before, there always is a problem, isn't there? Sometimes when you're doing books like this, is like it's pacing a lot of the time. I'd rather read a book like this where it's fairly short, and then if she'd cut it down even further, it'd been probably like a long short story. But 250 pages, or your case, probably something similar to the previous book.
Yeah.
It's probably like the right length then, really, isn't it? So
yeah,
that's why, because it's not a book I think she made the right move stopping when she did, really, with it. So, and apart from that, yeah. Well, also the narrative also jumps around a lot between the Orkneys and the time in London, which did jar in places, but it didn't ruin my enjoyment. But I think it's one of those books with a limited appeal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's why. So, anyway.
Okay, so what's your final score for this book? Then?
What do you think I'm going to give this book?
I think it's going to be about an 8 or 9.
It's an 8. I've really enjoyed it, but it's one of those books where don't you? Like, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not like something you go and take on holiday and read with a martini in your hand by the beach.
Maybe a whole bottle of martini.
Yeah, probably a full bottle, really. Yeah, but I said I enjoyed the book. But it's not an easy book to read. It took about a week and a half. It was that's a fairly good pace, don't you? Like it had been, like I said, been a 500-600 page book, I would have abandoned it. But I think it was 250. That's about the right length. So I said 8 out of 10. So another recommendation, man. That's rare for us.
Yeah, I've got 3 recommendations this month.
Let's see if we do that next month.
Dun, dun, dun.
I've also got the book. I've just finished off our joint book, The Reading in Bed, next month, haven't I? Episode 56. Should I tell people what that book is?
Yeah.
It's by a lady called Catherine Lund. Lund is Lund. And the book's called The Things We Left Sleeping. Not going to go into any more details on it yet because Amanda's not started the book. Looking forward to seeing what she thinks of it.
Yeah.
And I know you're doing at the moment, Amanda, provisionally, aren't you? You're doing 2 books started on Pigeonhole, aren't you, fairly soon as well?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to read one or both of them or none of them for reading in bed or whether I'm just going to think, yeah, that was a book. Let's forget about that one.
Now, when are they both starting? One's it tomorrow?
One starts tomorrow, the other starts on Wednesday.
Yeah, no.
So I'm going to end up having over a week where I've got 2 books on the go that I've got to read some of every day.
I've got to ask you a question on this, obviously, because this is obviously it's a point for people to bear in mind when you're reading books. Now, obviously, tell people very briefly again, so I'm looking at the time here, obviously, what Pigeonhole is.
So it's a website that authors use to sort of get advanced reviews on their books. And they're a bit cagey. They won't tell you how much it costs. They just, when I tried to get it, they just asked me how much money I had. It wasn't really that.
That says it all, doesn't it? So,
2 pence.
Oh, God, yeah. Go on. So carry on. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so anyway, they charge you an undisclosed amount of money to have your book on there, and then you'll have a certain amount of people sign up for and read it over usually 10 days, but one of these books is 11 days, and then they hope that you'll leave a review afterwards on Amazon and Goodreads and all the usual places.
No, am I right in thinking is this the first time you've ever had 2 books on the go from at the same time?
I've had it before where the last 2 or 3 days have overlapped, but never this much overlap.
I'm looking forward to hearing next one to see how this does your head in, basically. And then I'm looking forward to seeing what this 3rd book's going to be like.
I might just mix the books up and I'll be like, I can't believe that guy did that to this woman. And it's like, oh, no, 2 separate stories. Okay, it makes sense now.
Exactly. So that may end up that way. But like I said, I'm looking forward to see what he does next week and next month from you. I'm currently reading my 2nd book, which is Neville Shoots on the Beach, which is a post-radiation world book. Not what you think. From 1956 it is. And I got this from my dad, really, so dad and mum, really, through a mutual friend of sister's mum. I came away with a couple of books of them, so I'm on that at the moment, and I've read about a 3rd of it. So whether I do 3 books or not, a lot will depend on what Amanda's going to do. So watch this space next month. That true, Amanda?
Yeah.
Right, guys and girls. Well, that's me done. So
I'm done as well.
right,
I haven't just read a book while we've been on air, so.
No, she just wrote the next episode of My Big Fat Zombie Life, haven't you?
Yeah.
She's been scribbling notes down on the notepad she has. Well, I've been waffling away about books for half an hour. So, right, guys and girls, seriously, stay safe and stay over. And Amanda,
Bye, everyone.
see you all next time. You're going to wave at the screen, Amanda?
No, nobody can see me.
Oh, she can't be asked today, so see you all next time, okay? Stay safe and stay over, guys, and we'll see you all next time. Say bye.
Bye.
Reading in bed. Reading in bed.